Welcome back, everybody. This is the In My Grow Show. I am your host, Alex, and I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to show number 54. I hope everybody's doing great. Me personally, I gotta tell you, I'm done with the wintertime. You know, I've had enough rain. Thank you. I appreciate it, but I've had enough. I don't need any more. And I know I shouldn't say this because I live in California and we've had a drought for like the past 8 years or something like that. So I shouldn't complain. But seriously though, I read this thing that said at the beginning of the year about 70% of the state was in a drought condition. And now, as of a couple of weeks ago, only like 2.7% of the state was in a drought condition. That's a lot of water. It is. I don't need any more. Thank you. Appreciate it. Nature, the gods, who's ever, responsible. But please let it stop. I just want some warm kind of spring weather. Come on, man. That's all I need. Something else I'm done with is being sick. I'm sure you can hear it in my voice. I spent all of last week sick, which isn't surprising because a week before that I was surrounded by people who were just sneezing and coughing all around me. So thank you to everybody who contributed to this. I don't appreciate it. This cold or flu or whatever it is has really kicked my ass this past week. And it leaves me with no energy, man. I get up, go to work, come home, take a shower, have dinner, and then just pass out. So like I said, I'm done with being sick. I'm done with the winter. Thank you. And because of being sick all week, I didn't get a chance to pull together all the notes I wanted to for the Predator of the Week, which was going to be on the praying mantis. So I'm not going to talk about that today. I will have all the completed notes that I wanted for everyone next week. And then on top of all that, yesterday I had scheduled an interview with Sarah Rotman about the Hoop House Ordinance battle that's still going on in Santa Barbara County. Got it all set up, and my equipment refused to work with me. Yeah, it really bummed me out, man. But I'll talk about that a little later in the show. Well, I'm just barely noticing right now how different my voice sounds. Well, hello. I think I'd rather sound like Barry White than Wolfman Jack. Remember Wolfman Jack? No? Alright. Go look him up on YouTube. Yeah, man. Wolfman Jack. Anyways. Alright. What else? In a couple of weeks, I am headed back to Texas. That's right. Gonna go back to El Paso, Texas. Gonna go see my folks, my sisters, a couple of old friends. That's gonna be interesting because I haven't been back there in over 10 years. I'm gonna go there at the end of the month for a few days. Gonna take my daughter with me. Yeah, it's going to be a good time. Go down there deep in the heart of Prohibition land. Let's see what that looks like. Alright, so now because of that little recording fiasco that I had, and there being no Predator of the Week this week, this is going to be a much shorter show than usual. So now then, let's talk a little bit about the strain of the week. Once again, I'm going to give it up to the Chem Dog. Now, the Chem Dog is one of these well-known classic strains, let's say. And it is going to have, of course, that fuely kind of aroma. And it's also going to have this very earthy, I like to describe it as like a wet dirt kind of smell to it. And this is a sativa, and it is a cross between a couple of land races of a Nepalese and a Thai land race. And when it's grown right, it is going to have about a 15 to a 20% THC level. So if you're new to cannabis, take it slow with the Chem Dog. Because if you take too much, it could make you a little paranoid. Just a little. So just be careful. Take it slow. 1 puff, 2 puffs, and you're good. Okay? But the Chem Dog, pick it up. Really nice. Never lets me down as far as being a good sativa. Alright, next let's do the report from the Cannabis Front Line. This week, a bipartisan coalition of more than 100 co-sponsors has reintroduced legislation in Congress, and that is called the Secure and Fair Enforcement Banking Act, or SAFE Banking Act, and it will allow state-licensed marijuana-related businesses to engage freely in relationships with banks and other financial institutions, which is something this industry sorely needs. So next I want to talk about this video that I saw about a couple of police officers in Missouri searching for cannabis in the room of a stage 4 cancer patient. The guy had pancreatic cancer. And I saw the video over at Time.com, the magazine. And it's just a crazy thing to watch. Because you see these cops going through this cancer patient's luggage in his hospital room. And they're doing this because they said somebody had complained that they smell marijuana smoke. And the whole time the patient's telling them that there's no way they smelled smoke because the only THC he takes is in pill form, and he took them off the premises of the hospital. I guess he took them before he came in. It's just an interesting video to watch. There isn't any video of what happened before the cops showed up. The video just starts kind of in the middle of them searching through the guy's stuff. But there is a link in the show notes so you can check it out for yourself, make your own opinion about what's going on. And reach out to me on Instagram @InMyGrow and let me know what you think. But it just kind of sucks, man, because as I understand it, Missouri's in the middle of allowing medical marijuana, but they haven't really written the law yet, but it's been voted on. And I get it. These cops are still doing their job. They still got to come in, but still, I just think there's more education there needed and a little more sympathy for cancer patients, man. So, like I said, go to the link in the show notes, look at the video, and let me know what you think. Next is an article that I've found up on Leafly, and the title says, Feds say illegal California cannabis grow was funded by Chinese. And it doesn't say who it was written by, though. Alright. The article says authorities seized nearly 200 pounds of processed marijuana and about 3,000 plants during raids on 7 large homes in neatly kept San Bernardino County neighborhoods. The alleged coordinator of the scheme was a real estate agent who spent more than $5 million to buy the homes with money wired from the Guangdong province of China. The case is the latest where overseas money backs illicit marijuana growing operations in places where the drug is illegal for adults, prosecutors said. The article goes on to say the Southern California operation was being run by Lynn Lee, also known as Aaron Lee, 37, who purchased the homes, ran the shell companies that managed finances, and paid utility bills. Well, you see, even the Chinese mob has grow houses. And you can find that up at leafly.com. And now, since I'm going to Texas, I figure I'd give a little reminder of everybody of how unfriendly Texas is to cannabis. Alright, so Texas does have mandatory minimum sentencing. Possession of less than 2 ounces of flower is a misdemeanor and punished by 180 days in jail and a maximum fine of $2,000. 2 to 4 ounces is also a misdemeanor and can carry a sentence of up to a year in jail and a fine of up to $4,000. And then 4 ounces to 5 pounds is a felony, which will get you 180 days to 2 years in jail and will cost you a $10,000 fine. Let's see, and as far as concentrates go, possession of less than 1 gram is a felony of 180 days to 2 years in jail and a $10,000 fine. Wow! So a little half-gram cartridge could get you up to 2 years in prison. They could take away your freedom, stick you in a cage for 2 years for that little cartridge in Texas. Now, I know that LAX, TSA won't mess with you if you fly with your cannabis, but I'm not flying into Texas with anything. You gotta be crazy. Hopefully some of my friends who are still out there in Texas will help a brother out and get me a little elevated. Yeah. And that is a report from the Cannabis Frontline this week. Alright, now I'm going to talk about hoop houses. But here's a little explanation. So I'd been talking to Sarah Rotman, who is the owner of Bluebird Farms. That's a commercial cannabis farm out here in California. And I've been going back and forth with her this past week, trying to set up an interview with her to get her on the phone to talk about what's going on. And we finally did it, set it up on Saturday, yesterday, really early in the morning. Before I called her, I, set up my equipment, turned on the recording app on my phone, did a test, everything sounded great. Got Sarah on the phone, had an awesome conversation about this hoop house ordinance battle that's still going on in Santa Barbara County. And after I got off the phone with her, I ran a couple of errands. It took me a couple hours to get back and listen to the recording. And it sounded terrible. I mean, terrible. You could barely hear what we were both talking about. It really sounded like we were underneath the freeway talking. I spent a majority of my day just trying to figure out how to fix it. Couldn't do it. There's nothing I did solve the problem. And I felt really bad because there was a lot of really good information that she was sharing. So I was really bummed out most of the day as I'm working on it that it wasn't going to happen. I wasn't going to be able to have that audio for you guys. But we did have a very similar conversation back in January. And if you go to inmygrow.com and you type in the search Sarah Rotman, that's Sarah, SARA ROTMAN, you'll find the conversation that we had back in January, and that's going to be episode 46. We're talking, and she talks about the same kind of issues that they're having, and how there are people in the county who are really trying to stop commercial cannabis cultivation by using these really weird regulations on farming equipment. So go over there and find episode 46. But today I want to talk a little bit about what I know about the issue. The hoop houses are used by lots of different types of farmers, from berries to tomatoes. It's not just cannabis. And they're considered farming equipment. It's not considered a farming structure because it's not a permanent structure. It's just these tent poles that are put into the ground. And think of it this way. If you've ever put up a dome tent, like a 4-man or a 6-man tent, just a dome tent, it's got those poles that you just pull the tent over. It's very similar to that, but just think of a dome tent, but really long. And that's what a hoop house is. So you put these poles into the ground and then you just pull some plastic sheeting over them. And if you've ever seen them, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the ones that the farmers use out here, they aren't any taller than about 20 feet in the middle. Now, there are a few reasons why farmers really like using hoop houses. They reduce water use. They extend the growing season for the farmers because it helps keep the frost off of the crop, which means that you can farm in cooler temperatures than you would without it. They're also going to help protect the crops from being damaged from the weather, like from high winds. And they also help keep overspray of pesticides off of the crop, and that's really important for cannabis because cannabis is highly regulated for pesticides. And some of these farms are next to other types of farms that are allowed to use different pesticides. And the neighboring farm could spray an organic pesticide, but the wind could have it drift over to the cannabis farm and then land on the cannabis. And then when that cannabis gets tested and it comes up positive for these pesticides, that crop has to be destroyed because it's contaminated. And that's one of the ways how hoop houses help protect cannabis, but it's also how it helps to protect other crops as well, is that it keeps that overspray off of them. Another way that they help is that we get a lot of fog out here in Southern California, and those hoop houses help keep that extra moisture in the air off of the plants, because that extra moisture, when it sits there long enough, it could cause mold, it could cause disease. So that's another way how hoop houses help farmers. And since they are temporary structures, they can be easily taken down and moved. And they're not like greenhouses, they don't have any electricity running through them, there aren't any hanging lights in them. There aren't any concrete footings poured for them to hold them down, because they're meant to be moved. And that's why they're considered farming equipment and not a structure. Now, the hoop house structure ordinance in Santa Barbara County, in the San Ynez Valley Community Plan Design Control Overlay, they want to limit the size of a hoop house to 4,000 square feet total, which is basically 400 feet by 400 feet. And that's not per acre, that is per farm. And that's not a lot of room to really grow anything on a commercial size. Doesn't matter what you're growing, whether it's tomatoes, berries, or cannabis. There's no way a farmer is going to make a living on 4,000 square foot hoop house. It's just not possible. And one of the reasons this has become such an issue is because people who aren't farmers, who live in farming communities, don't like the way hoop houses look. Which I find amazing, because if you move into an agricultural area, I'm sure you do it with the understanding that it's still a farming community. There's still farmers out there who are going to farm, regardless of how you think it looks. I get it. You moved out there to be away from the city. Okay. But if you're going to be away from the city, you're probably going to be surrounded by farmers. And it also seems like the anti-cannabis community is using this hoop house issue as a way to rewrite cannabis regulations that haven't even gone into effect yet. So I've added a link at the bottom of the show notes where it says conversations with, and there's a link there to a petition that you can sign in support of the farmers for this hoop house issue. So do me a favor, go over there, take a look at it. Even if you don't live in the county or the state, go over there and take a look at what these farmers have to put up with and have to fight against. That way maybe you can think about that when the cannabis conversation comes up in your state or in your local area. Also, like I said, go over to inmygrow.com and find episode 46, where I had an earlier conversation with Sarah Rotman about this same issue. Well, brothers and sisters, that's all I've got for you today. Those are the end of my notes. Like I said, it was short and sweet. Next week, I promise, I'm getting back on schedule with the Predator of the Week with the Praying Mantis. So join me for that. Once again, click on the link in the show notes for the petition about the farmers and the hoop house. If you have any questions or comments about this episode, you can email me, that is inmygrow@gmail.com, or find me even easier on Instagram @inmygrow. Alright, my friends, I'm going to get up out of here and go take some more cold medicine. Don't forget, I love you all very much. And remember to always grow, learn, and teach.